OpenAI has been making deals left and right as it asserts its dominance in the AI industry, with previous partners including NVIDIA, Oracle, and CoreWeave recently being joined by chip maker AMD in spending that has exceeded $1 trillion so far in 2025. And that's not the only partnering that CEO Sam Altman has been engaged in, announcing at OpenAI's recent Dev Day event that ChatGPT will add mini apps that will make OpenAI's chatbot a platform for even a wider variety of tasks.
Yeah, and these basically application connectors, they include popular products like Dropbox, Expedia, Gmail, Canva, Zillow, GitHub, and lots of others. And they can handle requests related to those apps from inside the ChatGPT interface. So for the moment, some of these seem to be exclusive partnerships, and it's not clear what will happen in terms of competition in this new app space. But Altman has been talking a lot lately about needing to generate more revenue to try to recoup some more of OpenAI's costs. So I have to imagine that this is seen as a revenue generator, with services basically paying for the privilege to be part of those application connector suites.
Yeah, absolutely. I should mention I was just at an event called Elevate, Jeff, and someone from OpenAI was there, and he said, a lot of things keep me up at night, and I thought, oh, he's going to talk about kids and safety. This is going to be great. And the first thing he says is, I worry how OpenAI is going to make money. So,
Yep.
just wanted to share that. Fast Company has a really great article about this. It is behind a paywall if you've already read too many free articles, but you can check it out. It's called ChatGPT Wants to Be the New Operating System. Here's why that should worry us. One of the issues that the author raises is how using natural language as the default control mechanism means that many background decisions will happen invisibly, saying, and I'm quoting here from the article, who audits the logic behind your agent's choices? What data informs them? What economic incentives bias them? The more the interface simplifies, the more opaque the underlying process becomes. We've spent 2 decades complaining about algorithmic black boxes in search and social media. Now we're about to build one around every digital decision that we make.
That's just a fantastic way to put it. And it's like we've talked about trying to learn the lessons of social media as we go into AI, and nobody's trying to learn those lessons, at least not from the companies making these kind of products. But another great quote from Enrique Dans, who's the author of the article, is that, quote, the more we outsource judgment to machines, the easier it becomes for those who own the machines to shape our behavior. And he actually closes that article with another great quote that is, the world doesn't need another operating system that mediates access to everything. It needs transparency, interoperability, competition. And if we don't insist on them now, we may find ourselves living inside the most powerful black box ever built. One that doesn't just answer our questions, but quietly decides which ones we're allowed to ask. So lots in there to worry about, I'd say.
I'm excited, like I mentioned, that you're going to talk more about this in the other Mac that is coming up, where you'll talk about the AI bubble. But let's stick with OpenAI for now. Last week, we discussed their new Sora AI slop TikTok clone, which is exactly what it is. It hit a million downloads in less than 5 days, but it looks like there's been some sustained pushback from copyright holders.
Yeah, and I mean, so weird that Nickelodeon doesn't want, SpongeBob SquarePants to be cooking up crystal meth with his buddy Patrick under the ocean, or putting on a Nazi uniform when somebody requests a German SpongeBob and like half of them come out with Nazi uniforms in them. It's pretty crazy. OpenAI originally said that copyright holders had to opt out if they didn't want their intellectual property used in videos, which is just an astoundingly bold statement to make, given that most of the AI content is generated from training on illegally scraped materials. Anyway, OpenAI subsequently tweaked that requirement, so it became an opt-in policy where the copyright holder can also limit how their characters are used. So they don't want them to say this kind of thing or appear in these kind of situations. This, as one might imagine, angered users who want to make totally outrageous videos. I mean, that's what this thing is built for. But with so many of today's modern tech guardrails, the controls that OpenAI has put in place seem to be pretty easily to circumvent with a little bit of effort too.
What I don't understand is how Altman seems surprised by all of this. I think this is something that many of us would have expected would actually happen. And this is pretty consistent big tech behavior to do something that's obviously going to be a problem and then ask for forgiveness and promise you'll do better in the future. I think this is something we've been reporting a lot on. And I mean, it's just shocking. I don't know if they live in a bubble or if they're just lying because it's absolutely atrocious. Now, looking to the other side of the world, we've got some more evidence of how AI is not ready for some of what it's being asked to do, with Deloitte Australia having to offer a partial refund to the Australian government for almost $300,000 US that the report contained. You could guess this right away, a lot of AI hallucinations.
Wow, AI hallucinations. I never heard of that before. I don't get how professionals can think that they can just let AI do their jobs without ever performing their own due diligence to make sure that what has been created is accurate. It's happens all the time. Lawyers, Deloitte, all this, you read about it almost every day. But this Targeted Compliance Framework Assurance Review, very exciting report name, had the now all too common hallucinated references to papers that don't exist. It looks like there might have been around 14 of those because they were subsequently removed, as well as imaginary quotes and other issues like that. In response to the claim that, well, that's okay because the report's conclusions are still sound, so no harm done, really, Sydney University's Deputy Director of Health Law, Chris Rudge, said, "You cannot trust the recommendations when the very foundation of the report is built on a flawed, originally, originally undisclosed, and non-expert methodology. Deloitte has admitted to using generative AI for a core analytical task, but it failed to even disclose this in the first place." And, frankly, this is just another entirely predictable result of AI giants overpromising and underdelivering. So organizations using AI just have to smarten up to this reality. And, you just got to do your job. You got to do your due diligence. These are not meant to be used without any oversight. So do better, everyone involved, frankly.
Before we get into our next story, I just want to ask you a quick follow up on this because one of the things that shocked me about this story is that they didn't use another chatbot to run the report through, which would have identified potential hallucinations by doing a fact check. So to me, it's sloppy all around.
Yeah, exactly. It's fair enough. This stuff is what now 2-3 years old, kind of thing. And everyone's still learning, but that's a $300,000 project, was it? It's a gigantic project. It's not the type of thing that you can go, I'll just throw it in AI and see what comes out. So yeah, we're definitely still in a learning process about that. But as I said, it's on all sides. The AI companies need to do better, need to stop overrepresenting what they can do, but the people using AI have to realize that, hey, the magical artificial general intelligence that you've been promised, it's not here yet. You still have to do your work. So yeah, do better, guys.
Yeah, do better. Speaking of doing it better, speaking of things that don't work as advertised, Tesla is under investigation by the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration yet again about its full self-driving tech, this time over almost 60 reports of Tesla vehicles using full self-driving mode and driving on the wrong side of the road, running red lights, and taking other illegal actions that in some cases resulted in injuries and collisions, unsurprisingly, with other cars.
Yeah, and this is all still happening in the face of Musk saying that by the end of 2026, and I quote, "We'll probably have hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million Teslas doing self-driving in the US," and adding that by then passengers won't even have to pay attention at all, noting, quote, "Like you're asleep and you wake up at your destination." It should be noted that that is completely the opposite of what Tesla says when they've been brought to court over the full self-driving. They say, no, of course you have to watch it. So again, these guys just gave this Elon Musk $1 trillion pay package, and I don't get where the value comes from anymore. I think this is doing more harm than good to have him involved.
Absolutely. And speaking of robo-taxis, DoorDash is teaming up with Serve Robotics to bring sidewalk delivery bots to Los Angeles before expanding to programs across the U.S. This will be in addition to DoorDash's own Dot delivery bots, which can also function on roads as well as sidewalks. I do want to mention that I've been doing a lot of events over the past few weeks, and I was at an event recently, and someone from Serve Robotics was speaking there, and I did meet a robot from there, Jeff, named Brian, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It
Cool.
was pretty interesting to say the least. What do you think about all of this in terms of these delivery robots?
I have two issues with this. First of all, and excuse the anecdotal evidence, but we've got a McDonald's about 3 blocks away from our house here in Halifax, and I see DoorDash and Uber Eats and other food services doing deliveries from there to students living across the street from us, who I'm sure those students quite regularly complain about the cost of living. So I feel this is yet another instance where essentially, sorry, but lazy people make things expensive for the rest of us who can do things like, walk a few blocks to pick up our own food. Putting that aside, secondly, and I think much, much more importantly, uh, you've seen all the DoorDash and Uber Eats bikes in Toronto basically taking over the bike lanes downtown, or that's been my experience. Well, what are we going to do when robots the size of small grocery carts start making sidewalks more difficult to use, especially, for people with vision difficulties or people with mobility difficulties or even just families with children in tow? Maybe they're less likely to kill somebody than a Tesla, but is that really how low we want to put the bar?
I think it's a really good point. In Toronto, we have experimented a little bit with some of these delivery robots. It did not go well. I believe one of the pilot projects, I think it was called Tiny Mile, it was canceled pretty quickly. And many of the issues that you talked about, they were issues when you got these robots on the roads or on the sidewalks, I should say. But Jeff, I kind of agree with you. I think the only place that these really work is in a community or in an environment where there is designated space for them. Like I'm thinking of a college campus, right? In a rural area where they may actually have room for some of these robots. Maybe there are newer communities and cities where they can actually create space for some of these robots. But if we think about some of our older cities, Halifax is a great example. I mean, I rented an e-bike when I was there, and it was hard even to drive an e-bike around that city of pretty narrow streets.
Yeah.
So I think you're exactly right that when it comes to some of these delivery robots, our cities just aren't designed for them. As much as I like this technology, I think it could be useful to a lot of people, but I just don't know how it fits within many of our cities. So I think
And
that's a big issue.
I'd also add to that, and I don't know what the situation is because I actually looked this up relative to e-bike and e-scooter rentals, which I a little bit chafe at because of the use of public property and the issues around that. We pay taxes to develop our streets and sidewalks and all this sort of stuff. They're for us, not robots. So I don't know how the powers that be in these municipal situations let this stuff happen without, like, maybe they're bringing in a bunch of money from it. Maybe that helps to pay for other services. If that's the case, then fine. Let's hope that money goes to a good place. But it seems to be businesses taking advantage of public infrastructure without suitable compensation back to the people who pay for it.
Yeah, I will just say you're saying all this, but if you met Brian, he was pretty cute, Jeff. Great companion on the sidewalk.